FBI number 2, Andrew McCabe is out, and Congress voted to release the memo. Democrats lose big. Republicans win massively. We're going to analyze. Very, very big day for Republicans. Very damning couple of days for Democrats. On Sunday, FBI Director Christopher Wray went up to Capitol Hill and he read the 4.5-page memo that was generated by Congressman Devin Nunes, chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, that presumably details FISA abuses under the Obama administration, but worst, names of top players at FBI, DOJ, and within the intelligence community. Now, FBI is an offshoot of the intelligence community. As much as it's federal law enforcement, it also has an intelligence role. Democrats are hysterical. Now, leading that histrionic charge is Adam Schiff and Ted Lieu. These two guys are just morons extraordinaire. Morons extraordinaire. Now, Schiff apparently has his own memo. I think it's written at a 3rd or 4th grade reading level, and it basically says, everything that guy said's a lie. Devin Nunes, liar, liar, pants on fire. Now, Schiff won't let any other Congress people see his memo, but that's okay, because he's probably going to leak it to CNN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post. Now, speaking of CNN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post, they are working overtime to protect their Democrat masters. I mean, they're working overtime. They're not resting. Jim Acosta and Jake Tapper, in particular, are spinning so fast, it's making us nauseous. I need a Dramamine so I don't puke from their spin. It's that bad. It is absolutely ridiculous, and they're embarrassing themselves because the memo is clearly damning. I researched back to the days of J. Edgar Hoover, and I could not find an instance of a number 2 man, a deputy director at the FBI, being removed for what apparently is misfeasance or malfeasance. Worse, abuse of authority, potential crimes, maybe felonies. If he abused his office and weaponized, we don't know. We're going to see when Congress finally releases the memo. I predict they will. Now, I have to admit, a small part of me, a big part of me, hopes that the president either addresses the memo or hopefully reads portions of it at tonight's State of the Union address. And the reason is, the world has to cover it. Media across the United States, CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC, CBS, NBC, they'll work overtime to bury Nunes's memo, but they can't. They can't refuse to cover the president's State of the Union address. And if the president even reads an excerpt, some of the most damning excerpts from the memo, they're going to be forced to cover it. Now, will the president bite into the State of the Union and do that? I don't know. I don't have any inside information on that. I wish I did. I don't. And people I'm talking to really have no idea. I can't get comment from the White House on that. And I've tried. But I would love to see it happen. I would absolutely love to see it happen. But one thing is clear. This is very, very damning for Democrats. It is no coincidence that Director Christopher Wray, who didn't immediately remove McCabe, he was being deliberate. Now, my verdict is out on Wray. I'm really 50-50 on the guy. Just when I think I can trust him, I lose confidence in him. And then right at the point where my confidence in him is completely gone, he does something like fire Andrew McCabe. So he keeps me off balance. And part of me likes that because it gives me hope that he's an honest, fair, and ethical actor. And again, I'm going to reserve judgment on Director Wray. His removing Andrew McCabe is a massive step in the right direction. And he would have had to have conferred with Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So I'm going to reserve judgment on both of them in this new phase. I've been very critical of both, but there just might be something at work here. But again, let's be cautious about that. But the removal of McCabe is a very, very big deal. It's no coincidence that it happened a day after FBI Director Wray read the memo and a few hours before Congress voted to release the memo. Of course, McCabe's removal has something to do with the memo. Now, do I know that for sure? No. But look, having conducted investigations for a good portion of my career, connecting these dots these are pretty easy dots to connect. My 9-year-old niece, she's a smart kid. She could have connected these dots 5 years ago, but you get my point. This is very, very damning for Dems, and it explains their spin. And the release of the memo is going to be even more damning because it names names. And what it's going to do is it's going to, unfortunately, And here's the unfortunate byproduct in all this. It's going to further erode confidence in the DOJ and the FBI. And that's a terrible, terrible thing. But even worse, this is going to potentially taint hundreds, maybe thousands of cases. See, if I were a criminal defense attorney, if I were an appellate attorney, I would be salivating right now. And I'd be salivating because I would be looking back through every case file of any of my clients that were arrested and investigated by the FBI, prosecuted by the DOJ. And I'd want to see if the names Stroke, McCabe, Bruce Orr, et al. Were anywhere in those case files. I'd want to see if these tainted people touched those investigations. They touched any part of the process that incarcerated my client, that prosecuted my client, that got my client convicted, that sees my client sitting in federal prison. I'd want to know. And it's very dangerous because some very, very bad people who shouldn't might now have grounds for appeal. Some very bad criminals might be leaving their jail cells and being released back into society once an appellate court hears the case. And that appellate court, depending on what we find out, might have no choice because of the tainting of the FBI, of the DOJ, by these pro-Hillary operatives. They put the entire country, they put the entire nation behind Hillary Clinton. The entire nation was secondary to Hillary Clinton. All they cared about was getting their granny elected. I can't think of anything more reprehensible. Oh, except weaponizing federal law enforcement, the intelligence community on behalf of a political candidate. Look, if a bureaucracy works in favor of Hillary Clinton, if career statists and globalists inside the State Department generate foreign policy memos as objective opinion pieces, and those foreign policy memos happen to support the position of one political candidate over another, well, that's improper and that's unethical and it should never, never happen and they should be fired. That's really, really different. That's considerably different than gun-carrying agents and line prosecutors, people with the power of arrest and investigation, people with the power of subpoena and prosecution turning against you. Then it goes from being an improper and unethical annoyance to downright and absolutely terrifying. And if they can do it to a billionaire like Donald Trump, they can do it and continue to do it to a guy who was an elected president. Man, what could they do to me and you? What can they do to the person who's not a billionaire, who's not the president of the United States, someone without that power, without those resources? How bad does it get for that person? Like, it's pretty damn bad. And I suspect that's the argument that these criminal defense lawyers, that these appellate lawyers are going to make. If they could do it to him, they could do it to the sitting president of the United States and get a special counsel appointed to investigate the sitting president of the United States on zero underlying crimes, then, Your Honor, you don't think they might have framed my client as well? It's a valid claim. It's a valid claim. So what these people did at the top of the FBI, the Comeys, the McCabes, the Strokes, at DOJ, the Bruce Orrs, the Loretta Lynches, the attorneys general like Loretta Lynch and Eric Holder. And again, this is all alleged, but the evidence is overwhelming. What these people did wasn't just a slap in the face to Donald Trump and the Trump campaign. It wasn't just putting the Hillary campaign before the Trump campaign. It was putting the Hillary campaign before the country, before homeland security, public safety, and national security. They put their own biases and the agenda of one woman ahead of the entire nation, ahead of 330 million Americans. People should go to jail over this. Heads should roll over this. Careers should be destroyed and names shamed for eternity over this. And I really hope these people are not going to get a pass because Americans have had enough. This is disgraceful at the highest levels, and it was all done because of political bias. And it was done because the donor and the consultant class couldn't stand losing money because of Donald Trump's new paradigm and his new playbook. And that's what a lot of this was about. Donald Trump came into the game with 100% name recognition. He didn't need to spend millions upon millions of dollars with the traditional consultant class. I'm a firm believer that the Republican consultant class would rather lose than win. The Republican establishment, the never-Trumpers, would rather lose than win. If they lose an election, that person who was running for office has to pay them again in 2 years if it was a congressional run, or in 4 years if it was a presidential run, or in 6 years if it was a Senate run. They've got to pay them again. But if that person gets elected, well, they have their earned media. Their press secretary calls a press conference, and they don't need to pay a communications firm or retainer. They don't need to pay political consultants for polling that's being done out of their office. A lot of money is lost to the consultants when a candidate wins, and a tremendous amount of money. Millions upon millions, maybe even billions collectively around the country when you factor in all consultants over the term of a president, especially over 2 terms. Could be billions in dollars lost when a guy like Donald Trump, who doesn't use any of their traditional methods, wins. Hillary would have made them all rich. Jeb Bush would have made them all rich. And that's why there was this hysteria to stop Donald Trump. On one hand, he was going to disrupt the governmental status quo, the deep state status quo. And on the other, he was going to disrupt the consultant class's cash flow. So you're disrupting the status quo and you're disrupting cash flow. Believe me, it's not a leap to have these people weaponized against you. But I couldn't be happier that now sunlight is being shown on this. Because at the end of the day, these people are going to be exposed. It's starting now. That's why they're hysterical. That's why Adam Schiff and Ted Lieu and the New York Times and CNN and WAPO and CBS and NBC are hysterical. They're hysterical because now the corruption is being exposed. And I always say this, the great thing, sunlight is the best disinfectant. This is really important content, and I want to keep bringing it to you every day. So please subscribe to our premium service at www.therebel.media/shows. Do not forget to check out my new 1-hour-long show here on The Rebel, Off the Cuff, Declassified. You're going to love it. We go much deeper in all these topics. I have great guests on every day. Guarantee you're going to love it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back with you tomorrow.